Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Piedra podcast. Mark Stucklin, as usual, with me. Mark is the go-to guy for all things to do with Spanish property data. Mark, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Sean. Nice to see you again.
Excellent. Yep, that's me, Sean Woolley, Managing Director of Cloud9 in Spain. Forgot to introduce myself, but there you go. Lovely to have you along, Mark. And today we are wrapping up the year. We're wrapping up 2024, aren't we, by looking at some of the data that you've collated, I think, which covers pretty much the first 9 months of the year.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, the data we have at this stage, so in December, and we have from the government, Ministry of Housing, data for the first 9 months of the year. But that's kind of the picture. It doesn't change much in the last quarter. The big trends have been established in the first 9 months. But I also have the third quarter's data, because that shows you that's the latest period. And so if there was anything happening in the third quarter which diverges from the first 9 months or stands out from the first 9 months, then that tells you where the trend was heading as we got towards the end of the year. So I thought what we could do is just look at sales for both Spain and Malaga province, where you are, for the third quarter and the first 9 months. I'll tell you what's going on at that level, and then tell me how you're seeing it at your level on the coalface, and we can look at the all sales and sales to foreigners, or Spanish home sales involving a foreign buyer. And that breaks down between expatriates who live in Spain who are buying property and foreign non-residents who are basically buying second homes and investments, you assume, and the Spanish. And then I also have some figures on new build sales just to see what's going on and if there's anything interesting to say about that. Plus, at the end, maybe just have a quick look at prices. And so this is sort of a last chance before the year ends for us to see where the year's gone, how things have gone on these key metrics for the property market.
Fantastic. Right, super. A lot of stuff to get through. So where do we start? With Spain?
Yeah, got half an hour. I would say, Spain, the overall picture for the Spanish property market in the first 9 months of the year was a 10% increase in sales to over 500,000, so more than 500,000 sales in the first 9 months. And in Q3, the increase year on year was 16% for the whole of Spain. So it's been very buoyant, the market this year. Really amazing. Compared to when you look around the neighborhood, like France, Germany, they've been going down. They've been in recession.
Yeah.
Housing sales declining, prices declining. Spain's been very, very buoyant.
And I guess the answer will come in the data that you're going to be talking about where that increase in demand or where that increase in transactions has come from, whether it's come from locals or whether it's
well, we'll have a look at that. So, but just that's the bigger picture. And Malaga was, Malaga, that's home to the Costa del Sol. And the province, I guess, West Costa del Sol is really your patch, isn't it? Because you're those west of Malaga provinces like Fuengirola. Not provinces, municipalities: Marbella, Estepona, Fuengirola, Torremolinos. I guess you don't do much business down there, but
Mijas certainly.
Mijas, exactly.
Grande San Roque. So yeah, there's quite a lot of places.
Well, Malaga was up 18% in the third quarter. So 6% in the first 9 months, but 18% in the third quarter, which means that the growth was accelerating in Malaga.
That's interesting, isn't it? So it was actually below the Spain figure for the whole 9 months, but actually the last
higher
quarter was much higher. Yeah.
So like revving up. So that's the bigger picture. For just in terms of sales for Malaga province, and obviously, let's just get Spain out of the way. It's been a great year. I think it's the second best year on record for sales. Not including if you go back sort of 15 years, and if you go back to the last sort of insane boom back in 2007, I think it was higher still, although we're getting close. And but it's been a very, very good year for the Spanish housing market. You had this sort of, the market was trending down before COVID, and then after COVID, it just exploded, and it hasn't really looked back.
That's right. I was going to say, what do you think there are any outstanding reasons why this demand has continued to kick in? I've got a few ideas, but do you have anything that you think is responsible?
It's a bit of a mystery, because it's not like all markets responded to the pandemic in the same way. Like I said, we've had I think there was originally in France and Germany maybe a bit of a post-pandemic pickup, but they've now gone into decline. And it's not like they have a different interest rates or something. We're all in the Eurozone. And it's not now being driven by foreign demand has definitely been helpful in the Spanish property market since COVID, and it had a big increase or a lot of growth. But this year, I mean, let's just look at it. So foreign demand in Malaga in the first 9 months was only 3% up. In equal to the rest of Spain. For the whole of Spain, it was up 3% as well. So, still growing and still very high. I think it's the best period on record after 2022. But then in the Q3 in Malaga, it was up 15% and 7% for Spain as a whole. So there's been, once again, a big surge in growth for from foreign buyers in the third quarter. But then when you look at local demand, 20% up. So it's not being driven exclusively or even predominantly by foreign buyers. This is a homemade boom.
When you say local demand, is that Spanish resident buyers?
It's Spanish resident and non-resident, but non-resident Spanish buyers are a tiny number, so they don't really matter.
It's really interesting because we've been having a lot of chats with developers recently. Some of the big guys like Taylor Wimpey, TM, people that are well known pretty much throughout Spain. And when I've said to them, who's buying, they've all said the same thing. They've all said that they've seen a glut of demand, particularly this year, from Eastern Europe. And that might be for obvious reasons, but a lot of Poles, a lot of Ukrainians who are looking for either a safe haven physically or a safe haven for their cash. And that's really driven the market. I also spoke to a couple of my collaborating agents at the LPA, and they said the same thing. I mean, we don't deal with many Polish or Eastern European generally buyers, although we have a few, but they actually set up departments with Polish speaking staff specifically for this little mini boom of Eastern European buyers. And I think that has gone some way to fueling the demand, particularly in quarter three, because I think obviously the longer the war has gone on in Ukraine, I think the more people are getting jaded by it and deciding to look elsewhere. And it's interesting, isn't it, how one little, well, not little, but a geopolitical situation like that can affect a housing market in a completely different country as it has here.
Yeah. Now, the Polish growth has been very strong since the war began. For obvious reasons, they're trying to get as far away from it as possible. But the growth, I'm not sure. I think we do have quarter three figures, but I haven't got them in front of me. But I think I can't remember. It was US, Poland, and Ukraine, top three markets of growth. And the Poland is growing fast and it is important, but it's still not in the top 5 or 6. It's still relatively small markets. I would expect it to be having a big impact in, for example, it's now the Polish are number 2 in the Alicante province in terms of foreign buyers, whereas and the Belgians were number 1. It always used to be the Brits number 1, and then I don't know, whoever came number 2 might change from year to year, but the Brits were the number 1 forever. Now they're gone. They've disappeared from that podium. But they're still on the podium for the Costa del Sol, for Malaga province. I think for Andalusia, because that's the way the data is published by region, so anyway, so the Poles are important in some pockets. Yeah, but they're not driving this boom.
Interesting, isn't it? Because I was going to ask, do you think it's anything to do with the golden visa? I'd be interested to know, I don't know if you have the figures about non-EU nationals, whether that figure has increased, particularly during quarter three, because that might be, again, I think there's probably a number of contributory factors, aren't there? It's never just one thing. There's probably 4 or 5 little things going on here that we need to pinpoint. I suspect the golden visa issue is playing a part. And for those of people who are listening who don't know, the golden visa is quite a useful residency product that allows people from non-EU nations to enjoy EU residency. by investing 500,000 or more in a Spanish property. And it was very popular. It became more popular, obviously, after Brexit, and it became increasingly popular, so much so that the Spanish authorities decided to stop it. And I think they put it on notice, didn't they, over the last couple of months that it was going to end. And I think that caused a little spike of interest, but I don't think it would be enough of a spike to register on your figures, really.
Well, how many people are you seeing, Sean, who primary reason for purchase or one of the main reasons, motivations, golden visa? What percentage of your clients?
Yeah, I think, from boots on the ground, from our perspective, normally our glut of business activity is done in quarters 2 and 3. I think 70% of our business is normally transacted in those two quarters. So normally about 15% of our business is transacted in quarter 4. And we had a little bit of a kind of slow start to quarter 4, but we're ending it on a high. And it's almost as though people want to get their business out of the way before the end of the year. Now, whether that's getting the golden visa before it might go at some point early next year, or whether
it's confirmed. It's past the hurdles in the Spanish Parliament. It's now 1st of January. I mean, yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure in saying it's correct to say that by the 1st of January it's no longer working that scheme.
So I think we've had people rushing to make sure they can get in, or at least get the ball rolling if they can. And also, I just get a feeling that people are wanting to get their business done in the year. It's a strange, but it seems to have kicked in. We're getting high quality inquiries and people who are wanting to come here for Christmas, whereas the last month or 2, it's been a bit of a struggle, mainly to get buyers and sellers to meet at a price that they're both happy with, which whenever that happens on a consistent basis, normally says to me, oh, the market's just not creaking, but a bit of cat and mouse going on, because of course most of these transactions are for people who don't actually need to buy from people who don't actually need to sell. So it's a discretionary type of purchase, and that, it just takes one to go, well, do you know what, until you put your price down, or I'm not going to buy. So it's quite an interesting market at the moment. It doesn't make our life any easier, but
no, I bet it doesn't. Well, it could be gold visa, obviously Ukraine, all these factors that have been feeding the pandemic changed people's priorities and outlooks and a bunch of other things. Work from home makes, all the.
So we've had 2 big elections this year. We've had the US and the UK elections, and I think again there's been a bit of,
and France.
Yeah, we've got people who are moving from places like the UK, places like the US, because they don't like the political landscape or what's becoming of the political landscape, whether it's the politicians or whether it's the potential tax rises. We've had a number of people in the UK kind of thinking, okay, this Labour government is not going to do me any favors, so I'm out. And I think, again, another little point that's driving these figures.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of a bunch of factors on the foreign side. But what's interesting is the strength of Spanish demand. Like I said, for the whole of Spain, up 18%. Spanish up 20% in Malaga in Q3.
So do you think that's people coming from outside Malaga to invest and buy?
No, that's Spaniards. So that'll be everyone who is Hispanic.
But are they buying within the province? So I mean, because obviously some of those will be new buyers into the market, and some will be people who are selling to maybe upgrade or downgrade or whatever. It's a hell of a figure, 20%. Do you think that means that there's people maybe coming into the area from outside Malaga province, still Spanish, but maybe looking to set up home here?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some, but I don't know how important that as a
just seemed percentage, wasn't it?
20% growth, yeah. Mind you, the whole of Spain group was 20% up in the Q3. 20% growth on last time. I don't know. I haven't checked what happened last year in Q3. Maybe there was a bit of a dip. I don't know, seasonally adjusted stuff. It's possible that this is, but what is clear, I mean, whatever, this was strong, robust growth and increase in transactions for Spanish property, for Spanish real estate in Q3 and in the first 9 months. A very, very kind of healthy, very strong growth in the Spanish property market, which is contrast with quite a lot of the markets around us.
Yeah. Is this what you expected? Because I mean, I'm an estate agent, so I'm going to tell everyone the market's fantastic, but
Yeah.
you are normally a very balanced viewpoint, and you rely on the data. So is this something that you expect?
So you're going to say a balanced individual?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, is this something that you would have expected, or is this a bit of a shock to you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not shocked, but I'm. It's intriguing. It's there's. I mean, well, interest rates are coming down. Euribor's trending down, so mortgage rates are falling and a little bit. They're better. They're much better mortgage rates, as I understand it, than they are in the UK here in Spain. So mortgage lending's increasing. That helps. The Spanish economy is doing very well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, it was mentioned that it was featured in the Economist magazine, which is taken very seriously. Well, it's one of those sort of a very prestigious publication, cited as the best performing economy in the OECD or in the West in 2024, and a similar story for 2025. It's doing well. There's good growth. Tourism's been very strong. So, and compared to France, and it looks quite good, compared to the neighborhood once again. So
Yeah.
a good, strong local economy, although we still have, I don't know what local unemployment is still shockingly high. But a strong local, the economy must be helping. So, but all of these factors, I guess, they're just lifting the market.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't.
Like you say, if the economy is kicking along quite nicely, then it means locals are more confident to invest, and they've got a bit more money in their pockets. So that would maybe explain the.
Maybe there's also, the rental market is in a bad way because of government policy, and so that forces people who might have been happy renting to have to go into buying. It's not like everything's rosy in the Spanish housing market. There's plenty of seems angst around, and people who can't afford to rent, or well, certainly not to buy, but to rent in areas in most of the big cities where the demand is strongest. So it's not like everything's hunky dory in Spanish housing, but maybe the problems in the rental market is another factor contributing to demand some people saying, well, we just let's.
I think right, because the Spanish have traditionally, they've been a nation of renters, haven't they?
Well, no. Traditionally, actually, since Franco destroyed the rental market, it's been up until when Franco, when he passed away, so his regime went with him. Then he had really he'd done terrible damage to the rental market with his rent controls, but he had built a lot of affordable housing, so most people could afford. You could buy a house with an average salary and pay it off in 10 years in the kind of second half of Franco's time. And so I think if you look at the numbers in the 80s and 90s, Spain was one that had one of the highest owner-occupier ratios in Europe. And it's still pretty high. It's still like 76%, I think, according to the Eurostat figures I looked at earlier in the year. And compared to that, Germany, there's 46%. The UK is relatively high, I think. But anyway, so it's not actually true to say that Spain is a relatively, renting is a predominant kind of mode of for most households. It's actually the opposite. More than 70% are owner occupiers. But for the people that can't buy, they need to rent, and what there isn't is any social housing, like government-owned social housing, council housing.
A lot of Spanish children, once they've got to a legal age, but they can't afford to rent or buy, they stay with the parents, don't they? And that's
which 35 and still living at home. Yeah, that delays family formation, and has a knock-on effects that are all none of them are good. Mind you, at least they do still live, you do have these intergenerational households where they're like 3 generations of the same family under one roof. And that's always been a much more kind of Spanish, Italian thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a very
granny in the attic sort of thing.
Brilliant. What else have we got? What other figures have we got to digest?
Well, I guess we could have a quick look before we could go on to talk about prices. there's a difference. There's quite interesting differences emerging between, because the data they give us, it can be broken down. Foreign demand can be broken down between expats or residents, foreign residents, and foreign non-residents who would be buying. You have to assume they don't live here in Spain, and when they buy here, they live somewhere else, and so this isn't the home. They're not buying another home. Well, they're buying a second home or an investment. Although I think it's always been the case, and I think you may have mentioned it once, there are quite a lot of people who buy as foreigners who buy property in Spain, clients of yours, then at the time of purchase, they're not resident, but they're planning, it's part of their plans in the long term to maybe it'll be a second home for a few years or until they retire and then maybe become a primary residence. So it's not just because someone's not resident when they buy that's never going to be the case. But if we're looking at, let's say, Malaga and the breakdown between the foreign residents and the residents, so the expats grew by 1% in that period, Q3, whereas foreign non-residents grew by 20%.
Wow.
So, and it's been much more balanced in previous times. I've seen periods when, expats and foreign non-residents were much more in balance on a par. This is like, all the growth's come from foreign non-residents buying second homes, holiday homes.
Is the figure for the whole of Spain similar?
No, yeah, well, not really, because for the whole of Spain, it's that balance. So the whole of Spain, expats were up 7% in Q3, and foreign non-residents were up 6%.
Have you got any figures for Costa Blanca? I'm just thinking of a comparable area to Costa del Sol that gets a lot of tourist activity, a lot of second home buyer activity. I'm wondering if Alicante and surrounding areas on the Costa Blanca saw a similar upsurge in non-resident buyers that like Malaga did.
First 9 months, Alicante expat was down 3%, and foreign non-residents were up 2%. So there was a bit of a spread as well.
Okay.
But if we just wanted to do quickly in the make it.
I was going to say that there was a glut of, as you say, probably non-resident, i.e. overseas purchasing in Malaga for the third quarter. That's something's happened there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's funny because yes, as you know, what do we say? The 20%. So in the Alicante province for the same period, so just Q3 for foreign non-resident, the 1% increase. So this is specific to Malaga.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
don't know what to make of it, but it's an interesting stat. The fact that there's this figure is almost an anomaly. Okay, it's going up, but this is a real.
Well, did you see a strong? I mean, these are actually sales, so not inquiries coming in. This is actually closed sales signed by notary in the third quarter, witnessed by notary. Did you see? That which would have been activity in the first 2 quarters, first half of the year, actually, that leading to closure in the third quarter, I would say.
Yeah, we've had our busiest, most successful year ever in terms of sales.
Well, there you go.
But I wouldn't say it's 20. I wouldn't say quarter 3 was 20% higher than quarter 3 last year. Do you know what I mean? It didn't feel like that. It felt on a par, maybe slightly above. But I wouldn't. If you said it was 20%, I would have gone no
right.
way. So what about us is having all the fun?
Yeah, you're missing the party, Sean. But still, you've had the best year ever, and the figures also show that it was a very, very good year for foreign sales. But there's the one thing. Did you notice this expats? So that would be people already resident buying who had a very weak year, very weak third quarter, just an increase of 1%. Mind you, very weak, I say, but over in Alicante, they were down 3%, whereas here they were only up 1%.
Yeah.
But were most of your buyers foreign non-resident people come to buy second home?
Mainly foreign non-resident. You get the occasional. I mean, it's difficult because the sort of local market, if you like, or the resident market, they tend to buy in different ways. They might have an agent in place already, or somebody in town, or whatever. Whereas the overseas market will tend to find us as part of their research online. So yeah, it's probably we're not the people to comment on the local resident market. Although when we get a client who, as you said, has become a resident and wants to sell and wants to buy, wants to upgrade, downgrade, then of course those become clients as well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that was on the sales thing, and we got 5 minutes left. I guess we could talk a little bit about prices.
Yes. What's that?
So according to, once again, this is based on the average price of property sold, not the average price per square meter, the actual average price. So it's not a perfect, because the average price can change for reasons like, I don't know, in the one period, smaller properties were sold. They tended to be smaller or whatever. It's not just a pure price change, but anyway, it's a guide. It gives you an idea of which way the trend is heading. And in the whole of Spain, it went up 6% in the first 9 months and 8% in Q3. So once again, accelerating as the year went on. And in Malaga, it was up 9%. Prices, the average price of property sold in Malaga province was up 9%, both in the first 9 months, and the average price for the first 9 months and the price for the average price in the Q3. Okay. So close, getting on, heading towards 10%. So quite robust.
Yeah, those are good figures. Do you think they're too good? I mean, do you worry about creating that dreaded word,
a bubble? No, not yet. No, I'm not worried about it yet.
What would it take to make you worried?
I mean, I think that, one, of course, is Spain. Back in the bubble period, all prices of all property everywhere were just crazy. Everything, the bubble just blew up all areas. Whereas now, there's plenty of parts of Spain, very large parts of Spain, where prices of what they were below where they were 20 years ago. I think even now, still, only the Balearics have prices risen above where they were in nominal terms 20 years ago. So we're not yet near the bubble land. Also, the way the bank, what fueled that bubble was the speculation. I don't believe there's any speculation in Spanish property today. It's just, you'd be mad. Speculators can't make a crust in this market. It's too, even though prices are going up 5 times, you're still not getting, if you're getting 50% a year, then you kind of attract speculators. But at these levels, it's not good enough.
That's good, isn't it? Because it means that if people need to shed and dispense with their assets, there shouldn't be too much distress in the market, because the vast majority of people who have been buying for personal lifestyle pleasures rather than pure investment.
No, it's mainly for you personal use, and the lending criteria. Another thing that fueled the last bubble was the crazy. There was, I don't know how many cajas and which were like savings banks, and they were all corrupt and badly run, and they just bunged money at anyone that had a pulse. That's not the case anymore at all. It's far from it. In fact, it's quite different.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome is getting finance for clients. A lot of self-employed clients, particularly, who we know can afford the monthly repayments. The mortgage brokers know they can afford the monthly repayments. The banks know they can, but the figures don't stack up on their paperwork.
Still, yeah.
And those are the people that were getting mortgages without even providing any paperwork.
Anyone could get a mortgage back then, and now I don't know, but I would imagine, I don't know that the notary figures do show. I think what the kind of the percentage of financing, purchase of transactions involving financing, I think it's around 50% or less. So many cash buyers.
It's interesting, Mark, isn't it? That, can a property market like the Spanish market or even the Malaga market, can it sustain price rises of 10% a year?
I mean, not indefinitely, but it'll definitely. I mean, these, the price is rising because there's demand exceeds supply at the moment, and this is coming from, so let's bearing in mind that these are the average price of property sold. So if you go to the registrars and look at their price index based on their previous sale methodology, it's actually higher than the one you get from the government, which comes from the notaries. But let's say it's 10% in Malaga, and it's been 10% this year, and it was 10%. But if you go back, I know Barcelona better because I'm here and I've been looking at it. I was looking at it this morning. prices in Barcelona have gone nowhere. I've got a friend who's trying to sell his house here in Barcelona, and he's going to lose money on it. It's a very nice house, flat in a nice part of town, high end renovation, whatever. He bought it in 2000. He's going to lose money on it, or just about get his money back. And that's central Barcelona. Maybe he overpaid, when he bought, but still. And I've seen lots of cases where although there's been a significant increase this year and maybe last year, but we're not, compared to 5 years ago, we're not, like we'd have to look at the charts, but we're nowhere near bubble land right now. But it doesn't mean to say that the market could just carry on. We'll be able to sort of, handle another 30%. I think this market is actually more price elastic than, let's say, central London.
What does that mean?
Which means that if prices go up, demand will go down. It's not like the demand will respond to the price level more significantly than let's say central London would, because it gets to a point where I'm not, because like you said, a lot of buyers they're not net, they don't have to buy.
Yeah, that's right. And so there's
what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, there's that impasse. Our average sale, we're very fortunate, is about €1 million. And at the moment, on about 4 or 5 deals, it feels like we're about 50,000 or 100,000 apart. Now, that's still a lot of money. But when you're talking about €2-3 million deals and you get to 100,000 and then there's a stop because the buyer won't move and the seller won't move, it's incredibly frustrating. Because, in terms of a percentage of the price, sometimes it's quite small. But B, I think it's indicative of, like what you said, it's happening in the market. Buyers are happy to pay more than perhaps last year or the year before, but they won't pay what they feel is over the odds. And I think you're right. I mean, what would I would like to see as an agent who, I don't want this market overheating. I would love to see that 9-10% figure just come down a little bit to maybe 6 or 7 every year, maybe a little bit less than that, and just keep moving along in line or slightly above inflation. You don't want it getting into double-digit growth, because then, like you say, you end up with overpriced properties and buyers who can't see the value anymore.
Yeah, and then you get into trouble. No, absolutely. A little bit above inflation, just to give people a slight premium on, capital gains in real terms. That's the ideal situation. And that's also good confidence. People feel confident about buying because they know that it's going to hold its value. That's the perfect, the sweet spot. But I don't think, I have no idea, but I can't see this kind of price escalation continuing. I would expect 2025 to be, I don't know, let's wrap up with a forecast. I expect 2025. I don't see any reason for like a crash, or a shuddering halt, but I do expect the market to cool next year.
I think you're right. I think we're still going to get a lot of demand, because I think people are still striving for that enhanced lifestyle in the sun from various corners of the globe. So I think we'll always have that demand while the sun is still shining here. But I think that I can sense already that buyers there's just a reluctance to pay over the odds. And I think people are looking at the value of a property, say on the Costa del Sol, and thinking, hang on, I can get this for the same money in Miami or London or Munich or whatever. This is a bit crazy. So I think there will be some common sense returning to the market. I think we're probably going to see a little bit of a jarring between asking prices and selling prices. And I think that, I think the price rises will come down. They need to. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the first 6 months is going to be interesting because I can see that happening. I can see our job becoming increasingly frustrating as we're trying to get these deals away. But hey, watch the space. You never know.
Yeah, well, let's see. So sometime in the new year, we'll be getting together again to have a review of the market and how things are going.
Absolutely, that would be wonderful. Well, listen, thank you for your time today. Great to catch up with you.
Likewise.
Have a lovely Christmas, and
to you and to all the anyone listening before Christmas.
Yes.
So
yeah, exactly. Happy Christmas to any listeners or viewers out there. We hope you have a lovely, happy time, and love to your friends and family as well. And Mark, we will see each other on the other side, whenever that may be.
2025, and let's hope it's a good one.